PlayStation fans, the physical game disc is officially on life support. Welcome back to PSX Extreme. Sony just dropped two massive bombshells that are going to fundamentally change the future of PlayStation collecting forever. First, an official statement on the PlayStation blog confirms that Sony will permanently discontinue physical game disc production for all new games starting in January 2028. Second, the axe is finally falling on the legacy PlayStation 3 and PlayStation Vita digital stores with a phased regional shutdown. If you love holding your games in your hands, the clock is ticking. Today we are breaking down the official numbers reported on PSX Extreme, looking at the exact closure dates and mapping out what this means for the rumoured launch of the PlayStation 6. Let's dive in. Let's start with the headline grabber reported by Thomas Dacombe on PSX Extreme. Sony stated that as consumer preferences and the broader entertainment industry shift away from physical discs, they are adapting to consumer trends. While this news is incredibly disappointing for many players, the underlying data explains why Sony is pulling the plug. As of the end of April 2026, Sony officially reported that a staggering 78% of full game sales were digital. The industry signs have been mounting. Just last week, it was announced that Grand Theft Auto 6 will launch without a physical disc version, sending shockwaves throughout the community. Sony sees where the wind is blowing. They want to align their ecosystem with how the vast majority of their consumers prefer to access and play games today. For anyone holding out hope that a fan pushback will force Sony to turn this car around, the structural changes behind the scenes tell a different story. As reported by Gabrielle Stanford on PSX Extreme, the shift is already locked in. Over a massive physical disc manufacturing facility in Austria, a major plant that handles Sony's physical production, the staff are already being retrained for a post-disc future. This assembly line historically accounts for about 600,000 discs, with half of them going directly to Sony. Post-2028, a meager 10% of PlayStation orders are expected to remain. As a result, workers are actively being cross-trained in micro-lens manufacturing for industrial use, things like car headlights. Sony is physically dismantling the supply chain infrastructure required to press games onto Blu-rays. That means there is probably no turning back. This January 2028 cut-off date cutoff date tells us something incredibly vital about Sony's hardware lifecycle. According to a new report highlighted by Hayden Bird on PSX Extreme, industry analysts at Ampere believe this announcement strongly hints at the timeline for the PlayStation 6. Initially, many insiders projected a late 2027 launch window for Sony's next generation console. However, setting the physical disc termination date for January 2028 sets up the runway perfectly for a late 2028 launch for the PlayStation 6. Banning physical production for new games at the start of 2028, Sony ensures the final year of the PS5's primary life cycle prepares consumers for an entirely digital transition. This virtually guarantees that the PS6 will launch as a purely digital ecosystem right out the gate. However, the community is not going down without a fierce fight. As reported by Francis Parco on PSX Extreme, a massive mobilisation is taking place online. The official Don't Kill the Disc campaign launched on change.org has completely exploded, shattering major milestones to reach over 250,000 verified signatures from passionate collectors. Organised alongside retailers like PNP Game, this petition states that removing physical copies strips away consumer ownership, leaving players renting access that can be corporately revoked at any moment. The overwhelming response has thrown a massive wrench into Sony's social media operations, forcing a week-long blackout across their channels as they figure out how to address 250,000 unified fans demanding the preservation of retail media. While Sony is steering towards a digital future, Francis Parco reported that they are simultaneously cutting ties with their legacy platforms. The PlayStation Store for the PS3 and the PlayStation Vita is shutting down in regional phases. In August 2026, the stores are shutting down in Mexico, Honduras, and Nicaragua. In late 2026, they are shutting down across the rest of Latin America and the Middle East. And then finally in July 2027, the global shutdown takes effect. This move has been about 5 years in the making, remembering back in 2021 when the massive fan backlash over the preservation of the digital stores forced Sony to pivot and keep the stores alive. Unfortunately, the infrastructure has simply aged out. The good news is that you'll still be able to re-download your previously purchased games for your library for the foreseeable future, as Sony calls it. However, the ability to buy new digital titles, purchase DLC, or pick up classic retro releases natively on these devices is ending forever. As you can imagine, the internet is fiercely divided over this, and Sony's competitors are wasting zero time capitalising on the controversy. Microsoft immediately jumped on the opportunity to market Halo Campaign Evolved. In a recent Q&A, they explicitly highlighted that buying a retail version will reward you with a tangible physical game, case and disc to add to your shelf. Granted, the game still requires an internet connection for a content download to work, but Microsoft is weaponizing the physical disc as a direct selling point, while Sony abandons it entirely. It highlights a massive philosophical divide forming between major console manufacturers as we approach the next generation. The transition is happening whether we like it or not. The era of unboxing a brand new PlayStation game disc is officially coming to an end in January 2028, but we want to hear from the community. Will a 100% digital ecosystem push you away from purchasing a PS6? Have you added your name to the 250,000 strong petition to save physical media? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you did enjoy this deep dive, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, and of course head over to PSX Extreme, for which we've been covering over 27 years of dedicated PlayStation news and reviews. We will see you, of course, in the next one.